Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Penalty Loop Podcast, a podcast about biathlon by Jordan Gottschalk from Penalty Loop and a regular guest, RJ Weiss from Biathlon Analytics.
Hey, RJ. We're back.
We're back, fully recovered.
Mostly recovered, I would say.
Mostly.
Yep. Mostly. I'm good. Kids are good. Just Katie now.
Oh, okay.
So,
you just kind of ran it through the family.
Yeah, you know how it goes. Just kind of one person gets it, then kind of it's going to hit everybody. It's just a matter of when. But we're doing okay.
I kind of, before you said last Sunday night that it wasn't going to work for you because you were sick, I was all like, I can usually tell because if you're good, then I start seeing some messages coming in and more activity. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm not hearing much. So,
oh man, I was wiped out. So we were planning on doing a sort of a junior worlds, youth worlds recap last week, and the littlest one brought home a sickness and kind of overran me. I didn't think that you guys wanted to hear me coughing for an hour, so I just saved you that one. So hopefully we'll get to it. We're planning on recording that one in a couple of days. So we'll have it there soon. We have not forgotten about the juniors and youth. We will make sure to speak about them at length, as is our custom.
Yep.
How have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Just usual kids stuff, work.
Yeah. So I got some skiing in.
Yeah, every Monday night, right? So and my coach seems to really like the idea of putting these races for us, which is a lot of fun. But I'm not always in the mood to ski 5 laps, even though they're very short. But there's always this climb in it, and it's always tough to pace yourself enough. Usually, I'm pretty good at it, so that I have kind of something left in the tank at the end. But this time we were another guy, Dylan, and I were starting at the same time, so you're always pushing each other more than you shoot. So at the end, it was a bit of a tough battle, but no, it's good though. It's shooting is always so humbling, right? Because you can have one week where you shoot quite well, and then you come in the next week thinking, okay, I'm just gonna keep going on that, and then all of a sudden you hit like 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5 and stuff. You're like, guess it's not that easy, but no, it's I just love the mental aspect of it, and then the wind calculation, and I'm still learning so much about how to deal with that, because you can sort of, when the wind's picking up from the right, you can kind of aim a little to the right, and then sort of what they call shading. So you just kind of calculate in your head, okay, I'm aiming a little bit right to compensate for the wind, and then the wind will push it back. Or you can use the clicks on your diopter, and I don't know, that's still a part where I'm like, well, how many clicks do I compensate for a certain amount of wind?
Sure.
And of course, it's never that, the wind consistently picks up for a minute and you can adjust. Like it's, you'll see the flag horizontal, and then you're like, okay, well, better put a couple of clicks. But then by the time you've clicked, it's about 45-degree angles. And then the hard part is to remember what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Because the next time you come in, you have to remember that you did the clicks compared to when you were zeroing. So
yeah. So you either have to undo it or just remember that it's there.
Yeah, and even just sometimes we do these drills where we really focus on one thing, but then you start forgetting other things. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and there's still so much to be learned. Like I really have so much admiration for someone like Lampich, who I don't know if she shot as a kid before she went into cross country skiing, but if you have to learn that from scratch, basically, at a later age where you're competing with a field that's, has been doing it for 15 years, 20 years. That's, sometimes when you look at the results and she has 7 misses, then it doesn't make me laugh or anything, but it's clear that she is at a different level than most of the rest of the field. But then at the same time, like, 7 out of 20 is
pretty good.
Still pretty good to my standards, at least. And I'm not
Better
skiing.
than me, I'll put it that way.
Not quite skiing as fast as Lampage.
This is one of those things I think about just as a dad and also as a doctor too. Is that I'm thinking about you in particular. Doing this, it's really good for your brain to have this other thing that that's completely different than what you do normally. To this other problem for your brain to work on just keeps your brain more plastic and more agile, which is pretty cool. So kudos
also,
to you for getting out there and doing it.
It's one thing to just do a quick loop around the fence and then practice remembering things, but if you do it after 4 laps and you do kind of an individual and then you have to remember it, it's quite different. So it's but I also because I was obviously joking that Lampage is a little bit faster than me, but today in the race where Simone did kind of a similar thing to what JT Bowe did in the World Championship with the Canadian guy, and like not passing him so that they can finish their race.
Yes, yeah.
And Simone did that with, I think, an athlete from Ukraine. I'm not sure.
Yep. Yeah.
But then it also makes you because she was given her, right? The Ukrainian was going race speed. Like she wanted to make sure that she could stay in front. And then you see how easy it was for Simone to just kind of stay behind her. It was almost like she was doing a warm-up lap. So that difference, right, between, and I'm guessing the Ukrainian was a very young athlete, unexperienced. So it's also not a fair comparison, but you could really see the difference in. It's one thing when you see Justine Boucher and Simon and Tandrevold racing, but they're all kind of in the same league. Mm-hmm. Where then you throw a younger athlete that's just not quite there yet, and then see the difference quite well. But
you don't always get to see it. Yeah, you don't always get to see 2 athletes at those ends of the spectrum, next to each other at the same time. So it's just kind of it once again puts into perspective how good the really good actually are.
Yeah, and it was so this morning. So the men's relay race was kind of a really weird race for me because I was kind of awake, but not quite. Mm-hmm. So then I missed certain sections and then I was all confused. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But I was also the women's race. I was also on my ski erg. And I was just trying, when they were going uphill in one skate, I was trying to just keep up with the pace. Uh-huh. And then the ski erg tells you what the pace is. And there were 80 pole plants, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. Per minute. And on the ski erg, I could barely keep up. Yeah. Man, it was just crazy.
You think
they go uphill.
I was gonna say that's they do that for what?
Yeah.
I can't 2 kilometer loops, right? So they're 4x6.
That's great. Yeah. But anyway.
Before we jump into all of the stuff from this week, there were a couple of things that happened between Worlds and the return of the World Cup. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on those.
Yeah, before that, I just wanted to say again, thank you to Hanna from Finland, because she very detailedly explained the whole language situation in Finland and why they speak Swedish. And that, yes, there is a strong connection with the Hungarian language, but no, it's not true that a Finnish and a Hungarian person can just start chatting with each other. So really appreciate that clarification there. And the things you were alluding to, shall we start with the German coaching?
Yeah, let's do it.
There was it really came out of nowhere. I can't say I follow the German biathlon world, very closely, but I think it caught a lot of people off guard, including some of the German biathlon fans, I guess.
It was just,
but
it's odd for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with the change. Just you don't expect it in the middle of the season, and also with next year being an Olympic season, it's kind of a you don't always see a turnover right before that. So
yeah, so that's the one thing I actually did like is that if you're the coach and you're like, okay, something is not working, you might as well end it right away, because why would you fiddle along and then, then people know you're leaving, so that also creates a bit of a different atmosphere probably. And so in that sense, I think it's good if that confidence is not there, that you're going somewhere, then to just step out. It sounds like this coach has the experience of having worked with someone like Preutz already, and sounds like some other athletes, so it's not like a complete new person. And but he was coaching the IBU team, I think.
The B Cup, the B team, however they categorize that.
And now he's going to be the head of the men's team, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, he sounds like he's young. He sounds like he is very well respected. I mean, he is, and he's had obviously very, very good success. He was Preutz's coach for a little while, and he sounds like he's highly qualified. I'm still curious to see if they. Well, I guess we'll never know. Maybe they already have reached out to anybody else who, just to take their temperature on it. But maybe they're just quite happy with him.
Well, and that's what I'm just wondering about, if he was sort of the anticipated coach, maybe in the long run.
Tobias Reiter, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Reiter?
Reiter, yeah, I'm not sure. But
yeah.
So
big change.
We'll see.
It didn't, and it will, again, maybe we'll touch on it a little more later, but not that you could see anything play out differently this week. But I don't really expect to this season, to be honest. I think a lot of it is just him getting used to being in that chair, so to speak. Maybe we'll see little things, but I can't imagine we'll see too many big changes. I think a lot of that, of course, will take place in the training over the summer, and then as they organize the team next year.
Right. And I think I read that he said that pretty much right away, that it's not his intent to make a big impact right away, or he just wants to kind of keep riding the flow. And
yeah. The other big news, which was very shocking, I'm not even sure how to categorize it, but the incident that took place between Andres Rostogujevs and the Latvian coach Ilmars. I do not, again, these sorts of names, Baltic names, not totally my comfort zone, as you might guess. But is it Bricis? Bricis? So yeah, so I apologize. I know I butchered. I should have asked somebody for a translation, or not a translation, but just a pronunciation. Anyway, so it happens right after Worlds. Andres Rostogujevs goes to the press and gives us a statement about that there was a fight, and anyway, you can read all about it. I just wanted to say that I said this on Twitter, on X, on Blue Sky, wherever. I have, of course, we've interviewed Biba a handful of times, and the Latvian coach is actually her partner. I don't believe they're actually married, but it's her partner, and I am obviously, I feel probably biased just because I had to talk to her so much and consider her. I feel like we're on pretty friendly relations, and so I just taking into account my own probably inability to be objective about it. Even if I feel like I can be, I know that there probably is a bias in there somewhere. So anyway, I don't want to come down too firmly on one side or the other as far as what I think happened. However, what I think is pretty clear is, from Biba's statement, is that there was this incident took place outside of their hotel room, and Biba and Ilmars, they have a son together, we all know about, and he was sleeping in the room. And I think that just as a dad, right, if I thought that my kid was in danger, I can see that no matter what else is going right, there's an instinct that you want to protect your family, right? So from that bit, I do think that regardless of everything else that happened, I can understand the instinct to want to protect your family. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that as well.
Well, and you would like whoever were sort of the, I don't know if you want to call it aggression, but like the non-friendly tone, I don't know where that came from, but regardless, you should be, with two adults who should be able to steer that away from, a young child. Yeah, it's like what I find mostly confusing is the whole idea that it sounds like it was about a theft of a pair of skis that happened like a long time ago, like not at these World Championships.
Yeah.
So the timing that's coming out now, I don't know, maybe Rastoguyev thought he finally found out who stole them. I don't know. I know way too little about it, and again, I have also I have no bias. I just feel like it was a very odd thing, but I think the consequence is that Rastoguyev is no longer on the Latvian team right now. Is that?
Yep.
So
he apparently had surgery, I think, on his finger, and so for that reason, he's not racing. And then the Ilmars, he stepped away. I guess he resigned as the head coach. So I don't know if there's any possibility that he would come back, but it sounds like he's gone. So both parties are not participating for at least the rest of the year, and I guess it'll get sorted out by the federation.
Was he head coach men and women, or?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And so the details, I suppose, will be analyzed by the federation. I don't know if they'll ever be made public, and I don't even know that we necessarily need to know all the details, but it's just it's a sad situation. And I honestly mean this for all involved. No matter what happened, it's like you said. You would think that when children might possibly be involved, that like as an adult, your instinct would kick
Stay
in.
Away from that.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully, it has a satisfactory resolution. I don't know that there's a way for both sides to be satisfied in this case, but I just hope that the right thing, whatever that happens to be, I hope it takes place. Anyway.
I also wanted to mention, and that's a week ago now, but former biathlete Stina Nielsen performed in her first Vasaloppet, a 90-kilometer cross-country skiing race with a lot of tradition and history. I think, if I understand, she's from the valley where that happens, but they say it's the first time she raced it. So I'm just assuming that she maybe was the first time she participated as a racer, because I would think if you from that valley, you would have done it at some point. But regardless, and she won. So I think so. She went from being a top cross country skier on the World Cup to biathlon, where she had a third place, I think, is the highest result.
She had a couple good moments, yeah.
Decided to go back to cross-country skiing for the long-distance races, the marathon races, and wins her first, race of a very prestigious. I don't know enough if it's the most known race. I'm not sure if this is the race where with the whole story of the prince being rescued in a bag, or if that's the Birkebeiner. But yeah, there's a number of those races. Marcialonga is another one, and they're all pretty darn long. And it's really weird to look at, because if you're coming from a mindset of classic striding, all these top athletes are double poling 90 kilometers. I know it happens in the World Cup too, and they have zones where you have to do classic striding just to make sure that it doesn't fully disappear. But I'm pretty sure at those marathon races, they don't have to do that. But
90 kilometers.
Crazy, man. Yeah. And they have skate skis, like they have gliding skis. They have no kick wax or anything. So yeah, it's different. And that brings me to the Norwegian that I've talked about a couple times, and whose name I could never remember. And that's Anders Auckland. He's 1 year older than me. And he set a record for skiing a number of kilometers, cross-country skiing, in a certain time. So he skied 700 kilometers in 41 hours. And I believe that record has already been broken. And that the first 24 hours, they skied 420 kilometers. And I think that was a number of years ago. So let's say when it was in his late 40s. It's just absurd.
It just boggles the mind. I don't even know how
as far as I know, it just started as sort of a Strava challenge where they posted that they skied 300 kilometers, and then another group went out there and did 350, and then they just kind of kept pushing each other. Forth.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's that takes some willingness to push beyond the limits. And this is the last thing I have on World Championships, but we'll be talking about dominance a couple times in the podcast. But talk about dominance in World Championships cross country skiing. Klæbo is the first, as far as I know, athlete who wins 6 out of 6 gold medals. So every race he participated in, he won the gold medal. And Norwegians obviously has had a lot of successes with Therese Johaug and Daly and number of, like, the list is probably too long to even go through, but I believe he's the first one to ever win everything. And even J. Thibault, I don't think, has won every single race that he participated in.
No, it was a big deal, and he won 7 of 7 medals. 6 of 6 golds is outrageous.
Kind of unfair, but I mean, not.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Right.
Well, what'd you think of the biathlon this week? Actually, before you start, can I just say, I just thought it was funny, and I posted this on Twitter. There was a moment on yesterday where it was the exact same temperature in Nove Mesto as it was here in Florida. Granted, it was first thing in the morning here, and it was later in the afternoon there, so it was like our lower temperature versus their peak temperature. But still, that those temperatures were even remotely close is alarming. Which leads me to, I am incredibly impressed by the team there who kept the snow in decent condition. I don't think that the temperature ever really got below freezing for a significant period of time during the week. So kudos to them to keep that track stable.
And you had mentioned that it was hot there, and then I saw Lena Häcki Gross today in not just short sleeves but also short pants.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's. I was surprised that she had it and not Simon, because I think Simon is usually one of the first to come with her short sleeves. But
if it's above freezing, she's in short sleeves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1 degree, and she's like, oh, well, time for the short sleeves, But
yeah, but Fem Steinovik had no gloves on, and you could definitely tell that.
I was actually surprised that anybody was in long sleeves. I mean, I guess it might keep their muscles a little bit warmer, but that's
and I know that, for example, the Norwegian suits have sort of an anti-slip in the elbow. Because I was kind of surprised the other way, where I'm like, why would you, unless they put some sort of sticky stuff on their elbow to have better grip. But I'm guessing that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
And they're expensive suits. So, for Norwegians, maybe not a big deal, but for, Canadian team or smaller nation, that might be a bit of an issue.
Cut. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's not easy to cut, or not hard to cut them, but I don't know if they have to sew them back after.
No, I know. It's just going to be warm the rest of the way. Yeah, but anyway, I just thought I looked at the weather when I was getting ready for the race, and I was like, oh, what am I looking at? Yeah, and it's just maybe do a triple take. But that was just too silly. So what about the actual racing?
Well, I mean, considering that 3 out of 6 races had a winner that was kind of, I wouldn't say unexpected, but it was really nice to see him at the top of the podium again.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very thrown off by the decision to, I don't know if they went back to last year's starting order or if they did a completely new system. I know that in their rules for starting order, they have something like that they can always make adjustments for certain scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it feels like, so we have these new rules that a lot of people are not really a big fan of, but you're sticking with it, and then you all of a sudden adjust everything for this race. And I realized the conditions were, far from ideal and tough, but I mean, that's something that when they implemented the new rules that could happen. So I don't know. I found it.
What do you think?
Just to piss off the IBU, I stopped my project on analyzing the start order because they messed everything up now. No, but I don't know. Like I honestly felt like by the time that Athlete 60 started, that the race was already over.
Yeah.
And
I found myself really missing the new. Anyway, I will say that from a viewer's perspective, they nailed it for the building the anticipation and the excitement as the race goes along. So I felt the same way.
They nailed it with the new rule, you mean?
The new rule, yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt the same way.
I don't know. Maybe it was more emphasized in that race, but for me, it was even more clear that I'm happy with the new rule. But I don't know.
Yep.
It just feels like, okay, but when you're sticking with your new rule, but then you adjust it, then it's. But
you mentioned the 3 unexpected winners. So we had, I assume you're speaking about Jacquelin winning the sprint.
Yeah, and again, not unexpected, but
he's just not.
And
it wasn't. It wasn't.
I think still in 4th.
Yeah.
But it's especially World Championships weren't really going as he'd hoped, so it was really cool to see him and shoot clean.
Yes,
right. So
it looked really steady, right? Like it was nothing about that race, and I guess we found out later, or I found out later, I should say, that he was sick. But it was almost like he didn't go blazing in any way. His shooting was very measured. There was no aggressive shooting that we've seen in the past. It just knocked down the targets. He looked like if I hadn't known it was him, like I would have been like, oh, it was a different Frenchman that was out there. So yeah, it was very cool. And
maybe after the World Championships, he reread the article I wrote last summer.
Said, oh well, it didn't work so well.
Yeah, but no, that was awesome, and that's and Jesper Nellen in 6th, shooting clean. Yeah, was pretty exciting because we know that he's typically not one of the fastest or top ranked Swedes, but he was this race, so kudos to him. Yeah, it was like I think the most interesting part was to see where JT Bow ended up because there were a lot of people challenging his 3rd spot.
Yeah, it was
given
a tight bunch. Yeah,
and Sturla Holm obviously he ended up 14th. So
that was the big.
It was a bit of a shocker that he missed 2 in standing.
Missed 2 in standing, and then also that he and JT Bow ended up with the same 8 out of 10. And that JT Bow ends up in 3rd and Lagride was in 14th. I didn't expect the difference in their skiing to be that significant. And I don't think that JT Bow was magnificent skiing. Like, we've seen him stronger. I mean, he was still very, very good. I know he was still very, very good. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't anticipate the difference being that wide. And that way, that race is how he made up almost the entire gap on yellow, right? I mean, he cut it down to 10 points. So,
and especially remember when you had that race where he missed 2 or maybe 3, and he kind of already gave up, and Jacquelin was like, "Come on, stick in it." And I think that was a individual, but
this was a very
missing
different,
2 in his prone.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And then he went blazing away, like he hit the track and went hard. Yeah,
but
so I think so. Actually, if you don't mind taking a little detour here, but talking about the race between him and Lagride for the overall, do you feel that it's over or decided? Again, the numbers themselves are very close, but just based off of what we saw, do you think that JT Bow has enough that he's going to pull away and end up winning it?
Well, I do think it's JT Bow's to lose.
Yeah.
Because I just think Lagride seems to really struggle with the skiing. But I looked at the isolated pursuit times, and Lagride was 2nd. And where was JT Bow? I don't think it was right behind him. Yeah, well, Sturla was second behind Samuelsson, and then JT Bow was fifth.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't write down how many seconds, but so that makes me think, there's good potential, but I think for Sturla to win, he needs JT Bow to have some weaker races.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't put my money on him winning 5 out of the last 6 races now.
Yeah. So this is what I was thinking about it. I was trying to break down what would have to happen. And for JT Bow, I think it's pretty simple. He needs to do decently in the individual race. And then with his speed, I think he's going to hit enough shots that he'll be competitive in both mass starts. So then it really comes down to the sprint. And again, I think that his speed, as long as he hits 8 out of 10, like he's going to be okay in the sprint enough to be competitive in the pursuit. Whereas,
because there's one more pursuit, right?
Yeah. Whereas for Lagerud, I think he needs to have a very good race in the individual, like a 20 out of 20 race. Or a 19 out of 20.
And
because that's, I think, his big opportunity to gain points.
And again, it's hard to see with him.
Yeah.
Because he is such a, tall guy. Well, I mean, JT Bow as well, but it doesn't always look as fast as he is, but it still feels like he can ski faster. Like it seemed like a big effort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, there has been some talk here and there about the new Matthews skis not working quite well on warm, wet conditions.
Interesting.
It's not sure if that's because remember we talked about it last time, and that's when Stromsheim and Sturla were 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hard to.
So I don't recall if that was a warm race, but
yeah.
So yeah, who knows? But yeah, he just seems to have a really hard time keeping up with the pace, and he's like, if he keeps shooting like this, where he misses 2 in standing, it's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Johannes is probably going to. I wouldn't call him the heavy favorite, but I was definitely the favorite. And it's easy to say because he's Johannes and he's got yellow now, but I think he looks good enough that compared to Lager, that I think will be fine as far as taking the overall. Won't be his dominant one, but
how much
still going to go in the trophy case.
Plays a role that if Lagerud would pull off the win in Oslo for the yellow bib, how would that affect his popularity, you think?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Would he be a villain? No, I don't. I don't think so. But he's just such a nice guy.
Well, I know. Yeah. It almost makes you think, oh, maybe I should. No, I mean, I know he doesn't, but I have a feeling that it could be fairly quiet if, Sturla beats him by just a few points in the final standings.
Yeah. No,
in his final race. And, I'm guessing there will be some celebratory events for saying goodbye to the Bow brothers. So that makes me a little bit sad to see that Tarje is just not having.
Yeah.
It seems to fizzle out a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though he had very good results this season, but
he's going to surge.
Last season where he was in it so long,
he's going to win the mass start in Oslo, and then he's going to come over and give me a hug. That's exactly what's going to happen. So my biggest fan, you came all the way across the Atlantic. Here I need to give you a hug, and it's going to be beautiful. And you're going to capture it all.
I'll be right behind you, saying, "Yeah, I forgot to take a selfie last year." So
yeah, here I am.
I figured we'd come over. No, I think there will be probably a lineup of about 1,000 people that. We'll want to do
priority over us.
Yeah.
Long story short, I think Johannes is going to win it, but I don't think it's going to be a runaway. I think it's going to be relatively close until the end.
That's what we can hope for, right? That it will stay close right to the end.
Yep, right to the end. I want to be doing calculations during the mass start. I want to be trying to figure it out. Like, after the second shoot, Johannes is up by 15 points, but
I know, yeah. I don't know how you plan on doing that, but because I'm worried about the isolated pursuit standing, but at least I'll have another day, an extra day to look into that.
Oh man. Yeah. Real quick. The other thing I thought of with the sprint was, you mentioned the race sort of felt over when Bib 60 went. The last real excitement of the day was when I think Campbell Wright and Nick Hartweg were within like 2 bib numbers of each other, and they both went 10 for 10. And when they left the range with like within a minute of each other or whatever it was, to go to their last laps, there was that moment where I was like, oh man, these guys could really have a high finish. And they did. They hang on for top 10s each, but
yeah,
I don't know if that was
my last excitement was to see Zach Connolly.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Start bib 93, make it to the pursuit in 59th place, and I think it was. Let me quickly look that up. I think it was really close if he was going to make it or not. Yeah, well, so he was. So Mühlbacher was 2:19.4, and then he had 2:23.1, and then Jan Gunka was 2:23.3, and DJ Buna missed at 2:24.8.
And at the last split before the finish, he was in exactly 60th. So it was yeah, he was on the number. And I was sitting there like, man, please, just whatever you got. I know, left.
Yeah, that was so cool. Yeah,
that was very neat, very neat. I'm glad you remembered that.
Mm-hmm. And quite a similarity in the sense that so we had a surprise winner for the men with Jacquelin, and then JT Bow did quite well. Not win, but podium. And then his competitor didn't do great. And then we had the women's race where Ingrid Landmark Tandrevold won after quite a while, with as well clear shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Lou came in 4th, and then Preuss was 15th.
Yes.
So that also had some impact.
I was going to say that was almost a replica in terms of the result with I think a fan favorite winning who hadn't seen good success recently, and then the yellow, the overall competition getting slashed. I
Are you concerned for Preuss?
Oh, I think you have to be, right?
My only hope in quotes is that this is. Was it Oberhof?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where she did similar.
Yep.
And hopefully she can recover from that, get it over with, and now have 2 really good World Cups left.
Yeah.
But I don't see Lou getting much worse.
No.
So it will be, ideally it will be pretty tight. I really hope that it's not going to fizzle out for Preuss, but...
Yeah, I agree. I think one interesting thing, and we talked about this a couple of times, is that Jean Monod was winning the pursuit today. I know we haven't talked about the pursuit, but she was winning the pursuit yesterday, and I mean, she had a decent lead, and she comes into the final shoot, and she misses her first, and then hits the second, third, and fourth. And you could, like, I rewatched it, and you could just see her, like, almost flinch as she shot the 5th one. And I don't know if, like, she's still really young. I mean, I sometimes forget this because she is so good, and she almost won the overall last year, and she's been so amazing this year, but she's still young, and this is really her first experience being in the overall race, because it was sort of a late flurry that got her up to second last year. And I wonder if there's I think she already knew she couldn't win the Globe, right? Yeah. Maybe she could, but it would have taken like an absolutely ridiculous effort. Yeah. So
you're thinking pressure is getting to her a bit?
I don't know, because we've seen it a couple times. I mentioned it, I think during a pod, maybe during the second trimester, about how there were these instances where she had a chance to podium or win, and then she had a couple of misses in her last shoot, or at least one miss in her last shoot. And then she was looking so good. And I guess everybody has misses, right? It's just a matter of when they happen, you focus on them a little bit more. If this happened in her second shoot, like, we're not talking about it, but it was just another instance of it happening in the last shoot. And I just don't know.
And from what we've seen from her, she's a very strong shooter, right? So you don't necessarily expect 2 misses in one shooting also.
Yeah. And she had a lead too, so it wasn't like she didn't need to rush it, and she didn't rush, but you know, you almost, you know, like, just take your time, get the shots down, and you'll be okay. So that was interesting, and I think, you know, when you're thinking about how it goes forward, I'm just going to keep that in the back of my mind, that don't just assume that she's going to be invincible, you know, down the end.
Yeah, if it comes to a duel at the final shooting of the mass start.
Yeah, right. Or, you
but
know,
I mean, Preutz has been looking super solid until,
yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. And that was going to be the next thing I was going to say, is that Preutz, she looks a little bit tired. Her course time ranks were a little bit off. You know, just definitely losing more time each lap to Jean Monod than she had been previously. But she was still hitting her shots until the first shot or the first shoot of the pursuit, where she had that really uncharacteristic 3 misses. And to her credit, like, she absolutely rallied to hit everything else and to pull herself all the way back up to, I think, 13th in the pursuit, which is saved her yellow. I mean, let's be honest, that and Jean Monod's misses. So that was awesome. And if she does end up winning the overall, like, that is one of those races you go back and look at and say, wow, I mean, that
saved the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think, again, I'm going to do the same thing I did, you know, looking at how the rest of the season breaks down. Preutz, if she rested during the relay, so she didn't run. If she can get some good sleep in her bed, and because she went home to Ruhpolding, and then goes to Pokljuka, she has a couple good training sessions. I think the women's individuals on Friday, a great race there, is probably her best chance to gain some points back on Jean Monod. And then she's going to need to probably go 10 for 10 in the sprint. I'm not even thinking about the mass start yet, but go 10 for 10 in the sprint, so that because she's going to lose some seconds on the course, right? But if she goes 10 for 10, she can at least salvage as many points as possible and set herself up better for the pursuit. So she's not starting in 15th or something like that. So if she's starting in 5th, then, you know, she's already up there. She doesn't have to do as much work to climb back through that's all I'm thinking about. And then the mass start.
Yeah, and I get the impression that Preutz is not a fan of hot weather.
I feel the same. Yep.
I think feel the same about hot weather, not liking hot weather, or about Preutz not?
Well, I live in Florida, so.
I mean, you know, everybody has their, you know, favorite conditions and stuff, but it seems like she really dislikes the wet, sloppy.
Pokljuka is supposed to be a little bit cooler, so that might be good for her. We know Oslo is going to be warm. But we'll see.
No.
Oh yeah,
it will turn around when we get there.
I hope so.
It's been bring Canadian weather, although
it's been roasting recently.
Ugh.
So let's see. Next weekend, again, the races aren't there next weekend. Actually, not bad. 4, 5, and 7. So hopefully it cools down a little bit. What about you?
Yeah,
Do you think that Preutz has a chance? Do you think or is she fading?
Well, she has a chance, but I still think in the end, who will? Beat her,
carry it home. Yeah,
I don't know. Like, again, like I said, if this is an Oberhof 2.0 and she comes back strong, I do think that she is probably, when it comes to a final shooting in a race like side by side, I put my money on Preutz just because she's a lot older and more experienced. But yeah, if this is the level of skiing we're going to see from her for the rest of the season,
then too much to ask for.
Yeah, but I agree. Like, if she starts off strong, then she'll definitely be in it. But yeah, if she has a bad sprint and starts 20 or 10, 15 places behind Lou in the pursuit, and
well, that's what sank. I mean, Tandrevold last year. Right?
I'd be tremendously happy for either one of them, and I guess Preutz 100% puts me over on her fence because she's older and probably won't have as many opportunities to do it if she doesn't get it.
Well, there have been rumors about her either way retiring after next season anyway. So you just sort of feel like she's got this year and next season to possibly do it. And I would imagine next season she's going to go all in on the Olympics.
Well, yeah, it's Olympics, right?
So I agree. Like, if you made me choose, that's how I would do it, because I still think Jean Monod is going to win several more in her career, but either way.
But I also don't want Jean Monod to become a Sturla Homewood, right?
No, that's exactly it. I think they're both very deserving champions regardless. And to be happy for both. How about Tandrevold,
to this
though?
day, even though I have no interest in NFL, sorry for the person who was almost offended by that. Was
Tobias.
Torgerson, right?
Tobias, yeah. He almost turned it off.
Sorry, Tobias.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for those guys, but it's just not my sport. But I can still feel sad for the Buffalo Bills when was it in the 90s or 80s, 90s?
4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s. Yeah, they came in. They lost the Super Bowl.
Man, that's...
I know.
Yeah.
They just win one of those. Anyway.
Hey, did you realize that Tandrevold actually had the second course time in the sprint?
What?
Just behind Lampage, but she was faster than Brézard-Boucher and faster than Giacomel, Michelin.
Mm-hmm.
Like
just
that.
A little late peak, which makes sense considering she had kind of a funny...
She had more rest, I guess.
November and December. Well, I was that.
And I guess just Brézard-Boucher had an extra penalty loop, but I mean, Simon didn't have a penalty loop.
Check out, do you have them in front of you? The course times per lap for Simon? They're so funny.
Which one? Which one do you want to...
For the sprint. I'm going to pull it up, but I think loops?
Did she fall?
It's weird, isn't it? So she goes 38th ranked course time for lap 1, then 15th for lap 2, and then 3rd for lap 3. That's what happened. That's weird.
That's build up, man.
That's one way of putting it, but I've just never seen that from her before.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it could be that the wax wasn't very good and it kind of wore off as the race went on. But
because I was thinking it was strange that she shot clean, but
didn't win.
Yeah, right. And not only didn't win, but it was like 20 seconds behind Tandrevold, and she just started off a little lazy, I guess. I don't know. She was just warming into the race.
Well, it could be that some athletes feel with, especially the soft conditions, that they don't want to start too fast to not completely burn up after lap 2, and then you basically die on the 3rd lap. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting, and she clearly made up for it with a dominant win in the pursuit. So, but that was just a funny looking thing.
No, I was just thinking of Hauser in 5th and Knoten in 6th, and they're both pretty tall women.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I would think that's a bit of a disadvantage in sloppy snow, but
it worked for them.
Yeah.
That was Hauser's best finish of the year, by the way.
I know, yeah. Yeah, they celebrated it pretty hard.
Yeah. Hauser in 10th or 5th, and you say Knoten, and then Suvi in 7th, and Todorova in 8th. It's kind of a fun little group there.
And I'm impressed with Vera.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think she had one race where she was challenging. She didn't win a race, did she, this year?
Nope.
You look at her numbers, 6, 9, 21, 33, 4, 4, another 9. Yeah.
Sixth in the pursuit. It's another good weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really solid year. And this, I mean, I shouldn't say I know this, but you think a lot of this is just she's already committed to coming back for next season. It's like just making sure that she's ready for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I can't get it out of my head that she's going to be competitive in one of those races. And I would love to see her come home with even if.
I honestly wonder if she would win a gold medal in the Olympics, if she's going to retire right after the Olympics.
Yeah. Why not?
I don't know.
It's not going to get better than that.
I'm usually not I don't really like the seasons with the Olympics because, it's almost like a sideshow.
Yeah.
The normal season, but.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way.
I'm really impressed with Océane Michelin because
oh my gosh,
I think the weekend before the World Championship she was kind of declining a little bit, and especially with her shooting. But man, she's been on fire,
right?
And because was her first relay not very successful? Is that
I don't remember.
I just have this picture of her kind of in tears for not doing well in the relay, but
I think you're right. Well, she nailed it in at Worlds.
Well, and today.
And today. Yeah. And then in the pursuit, right, she came off the range right alongside Jean Monod, and Jean Monod couldn't get her. Right?
No friends politics there.
Cost, yeah, we talked about that earlier. Cost Jean Monod a few points.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, good for them for competing it to the line. That makes me happy, and I was really happy for Michelin to get back on the podium again. So, congratulations to her. It's funny, I saw a post afterward that it was her first World Cup podium, which, I mean, technically it is, but because her last podium, her only previous podium was at the World Championships, but it just sounded funny to me.
Yeah. She had the fastest course time. 2 seconds ahead of Boucher.
Awesome. Yeah, I was really happy to see it. And you just think about how stacked that team is going forward. I mean, they could just rolling them out.
Well, at least there's not a bunch of French younger girls pushing or knocking on the door from the IBU Cup.
No, none.
Absolutely none. Younger than that.
Yeah, it's crazy. We mentioned Veer, 9th and 6th. Oh, this is what I was going to say. The Swedes had an amazing day in the pursuit. Because Samuelsson came back from 11th. Perfect day. Goes right to the front. I feel like he was at the front within like one shoot. He was all the way, at the front and just never wavered. And then Hannah, she rose up from, 13th to 2nd?
Yeah, it actually makes me wonder why I said there were 3 quote-unquote surprise wins. Because Hannah was...
Well, she didn't win,
she's been really strong the last couple of races, but still for her to win was super exciting.
14th to 2nd. Man, that was amazing to have her rise up like that. It's been a challenging year, but really, really nice to see that. And Samuelsson, would you believe he hasn't won since the beginning of last season?
Yeah, I would believe that. Well, wasn't that when he was kind of alluding to he was going to challenge JT Bow?
He was going to challenge JT Bow, yeah. It lasted about 2 weeks, but that's, it was a good run. It's about as long as anyone lasts. Challenging JT Bow. It was really fun to see them.
JT Bow is probably, now I have to do some practicing.
But it was just fun to see them doing that again and just kind of reminding us what they're capable of. Hopefully it's something they're able to keep doing.
I'm also impressed with, a large number of athletes as usual, but Maren Schickeide.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She's really, really stepping up, I find, even, despite Tandrevold winning the sprint, but she's solid. Like,
yeah, she's ready.
I don't know.
And she's super young too, isn't she? She's 22. Yeah, 22.
22, yeah.
Yeah, she's ready. And it's kind of cool how in the relays they have just plugged her into and I don't know if that's just a this season thing, but they've just sticking her in the anchor leg. And honestly,
especially with Tandrevold in this form, where she wins the sprint, you would think it's kind of a no-brainer to put her there, but
it was funny,
and she delivers, Schickeide.
For sure. This version of the Norwegian team is actually working really well for the relays. Now that Tandrevold is reaching, Fem Steinebek has been really solid in the relays, and she's got a ton of speed, and Schickeide now anchoring it. Like, that's a really solid 3. And Knoten, she hasn't been exactly where she would have liked to have been this year, but you think next season?
Arne Clave in sort of reserves almost?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. You think next season like that? That is definitely a team that's going to challenge for a medal. And it sounds silly to say that, but at times this year, it really felt like they were a little bit lost in the wilderness. And now I feel much differently going into next season. I don't think that they're going to be challenging the French women necessarily because they're on another planet, but definitely a medal contender.
If I made you pick now for the remaining 2 World Cups between Ida Leen and Juni Arne Clave.
For who to race?
Yeah.
Who to start the races?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So who would be in the World Cup team and who would be on the IBU Cup?
Hey, right now, I'm not sure it matters. I think Idalene has a higher ceiling because of the speed. She just hasn't been able to consistently hit, and that's been a long-term problem. And Juni Arnaclive hits a little bit better, but I don't think she has the speed to really contend. So I think I might go with Idalene just because of the higher ceiling, but I don't think it matters all that much. Or maybe you do Juni for Pokljuka and Idalene for Oslo. I don't know.
Yeah. Coach on 5th again, hey? In the pursuit.
Yes. Yep.
And man, did you see her shooting today? I mean, unfortunately, she missed the last shot, but she shot so fast at force shooting in the pursuit.
Yes.
It's like, holy crap. And it wasn't even like I don't think even if she would have hit 5 that she would have been able to gain a position.
Yeah.
But it really felt like she was just going for it.
Yeah. I think she was also solid enough that like she could take a miss and be okay. But it was also just it was nice to see her aggressive.
Yeah. Well, and to come in 3rd with your strongest athlete not in the relay.
Yeah, it's not nothing, right?
No, I was really happy for, is it Schneider?
Yeah, Sophia Schneider.
Who had, not a great race in the World Championships. And then it's always hard to come back because, if you have another bad race, I always feel like that might haunt you the rest of your career.
Yeah. Now she bounced right back. Wasn't perfect, but she avoided the penalty loop. Ended up on the podium.
I mean, as long as you don't feel like you cost the team a number of places, right? Then I think that's just a good performance.
Also happy for Switzerland. I think they've sort of quietly had a very good relay year. I think they've had half their finishes have been 4th or 5th. So it's unfortunate that they didn't do well in Linderheide, but really besides that, I think they had, was it Hochfjellsen? One of the other early relays was not great. But overall they've been very solid, and I'm just happy to see that they've they're running so well. I mean, I think they're 5th in the Nations Cup right now, so they've just been putting it together.
I was happy to see Czech Republic doing quite well, just for the home crowd. I really like this crowd because you can almost not tell that it's in the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
I mean you can tell if you pay attention to it, but like they're just so positive about everybody because sometimes they come out of that tunnel and you just hear this tornado of encouragement. Yeah. For a Czech, but then the Czech goes up the hill, and then a German comes through, and it's the same tornado of sound again. And then an Italian comes in, the same thing. Like they're just so supportive of just everybody. I love that. It's
well, and speaking of the Czech team, they pulled up Plechikova, the youth who was so amazing at Youth Worlds. And she ran the 3rd leg, and she actually exchanged them in 6th place. So didn't lose them any ground at all.
She shot clean, I think, her second or standing shoot, right?
So good, yeah. I was so happy for her.
But so do you know why Davidova didn't race? Because didn't she race the sprint?
She raced the sprint. I wonder if her back still isn't 100%. So they just decided to rest her. Yeah. There was a cool race within the race in the relay today. So the Women's Nations Cup between for the 10th spot, right? So everybody between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in those positions gets 5 starting positions, and then after that it's 4. So you've got Ukraine, Czech Republic, Finland is currently in the 10th spot. So Ukraine 8th, Czech Republic is in 9th, Finland is in 10th, then Poland is in 11th, and they're all separated by just a very, very small margin. And so there was a really cool battle in the last leg. You had Erika Janka and Joanna Jacquelin, who were racing literally side by side, and they're currently like in 10th and 11th in the Nations Cup, and they were actually 10th and 11th in the relay at that point too, which was really funny. And then Jacquelin, she had
a penalty loop, right?
A penalty loop, but she recovered well. and ended up finishing in ninth. So they actually finished ahead of Finland. And they also finished ahead of Ukraine as well, who was the last team to finish, who wasn't lapped, of course. So they gained a few points there, and it's going to be very, very close to see who gets that final spot.
I'm a little bit sad for Tobias that they're just not having quite a strong season as they did last year, the Polish women. And, I think this is a good example of a team that if they really want to have a good success with a relay, all four of them have to have, a top performance and, with a penalty loop.
It was cool too, right? Because they had Anna Nedza Kubinic was their second leg, as opposed to Kamila Zuk. And they had Daria Zimbika was racing today as well. So they had Sidorovic and Jacquelin, but then they had sort of two young women who stepped in and actually did a really good job. I think Sidorovic was I think she's the oldest one today. Anyway, I just very, very impressed with them as a whole, and I'm really looking forward to how they're going to race next year. And I actually wanted to say, because I was thinking about this during the race, is that you have Tobias and you have, I think, Eric Kulstad as the head coach of the Finnish team, and they're both young Norwegian men. And sort of they've taken these squads who were, I don't know, they were kind of in between eras a little bit with, I think we've talked about the Finnish team still looking for somebody to come after Kaisa Makarainen and Mari Ader, who retired last year. And the Polish women just sort of felt like they were in no man's land. And now they're kind of like young, exciting teams. It's just really, it's nice to see.
Well, and I noticed too that because Suvi, I think, came in second in the relay.
Yeah, she exchanged very high.
She was not far off of Jean Monod.
Yeah.
And then you see, fairly unknown names stepping up after that on the Finnish team. Because I do think that's more of a, they have a really strong, and then the rest is very young and,
yes, yep.
Less strong. I think the Polish team is more balanced that way. But I was impressed. Like the Finnish women 2, 3, 4 did very well too.
They did. And that's, Vinla Lettinen, who had that really strong start to the year. She hasn't been racing because she got sick. And I think Sonia Lienemo has been fast, but hasn't been able to shoot as well. So I'm just very optimistic. I think it's cool what they've been able to do. And I hope those guys stick around with those nations for a long time to keep building it up. Because I think what they're doing is really working. I'm excited to see it keep going.
Yeah,
and I'm not biased at all because I like chatting with Tobias, but I'm just being genuine when I say that about those teams.
Yeah, and then Belgium always stands out to me as well. Like they have Lotte Lee, 29 is the oldest of the group.
I know.
Maya Kluden's 23, and then Yves Bouvard 25, and then they have Marissa Emons 19.
We think just the fact that they can put a relay out there is really cool.
Yeah. And they're really strong shooters. Like it's,
I know, it's really. I think we talked. Was it the mass start? Was it the mass start in Lenzerheide that Klutens and Lotte Lee were the only two that hit clean, shot clean?
Yeah, or at least I don't know if it was the only two, but there wasn't that many. And I was kind of looking through. I didn't actually look at the biggest comeback by position necessarily, but I noticed that Florent Claude started in 39th in the pursuit and got in 16th.
Nice.
So that's
also
shot clean is one of
the Belgians have just consistently been popping up.
Yeah,
it just makes me happy.
And I don't know if that's still the case, but I kind of remember from last season that they worked with the French team for waxing.
You could be right.
And I don't know if that was just one event or if that was like throughout the season, but obviously with the, Claude brothers spread out over the Belgian team and the French team, there are some connections at least, but that doesn't guarantee anything. But
yeah, I wonder if these French women, if any of them have some Belgian heritage, they might discover in the next year or so.
Yeah, could be an option, right?
Yeah. Either way, I think it's cool what they've done.
What the status is with Elvira? Was it just...
She just got sick. Yeah.
Got sick, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she should be back. Speaking of, we've talked a lot about Preuss's bad luck with getting sick. I feel like Elvira is starting to be that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't
Well, at
remember
least
the
this
last
season, it seems like
last season
goes
too,
from one
and I
sickness.
think it was
Yeah.
It's been a couple years now where she just can't get through the full season. It's hard. You're racing this hard, and in this type of sport, your body is going to be constantly in stress. So, I think was it Claire Egan or I think it was Claire Egan who talked a lot about that. Just it's just hard to stay healthy the entire way because of everything you're putting your body through.
And I mean, look at you or me. Like when you look at the period November to March.
How many times have I been sick?
We're never sick.
Yeah.
And we're not quite as active, I would say.
Just living life. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the men's relay?
There's one thing that bugged/surprised me, and that was to see how happy the Bow brothers seemed after the relay, after finishing in second again behind the French. I not that I expect them to stand there crying.
Yeah.
But I was a little, like, it almost felt a bit like, oh yeah, we're just having fun. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure they put 110% like they always do, but it seemed a bit odd to me where, Team Norway is typically not really super excited about coming in second.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and I think especially, since, again, it was behind France, there's definitely some rivalry there. So
a little less painful, and you've got the gold medal from Worlds that you can take out of the... they start bragging too much, you pull out the Worlds gold medal and say, ha, we got you when it mattered. No, I know what you mean, though.
That surprised me a bit. But, I mean, in itself...
I thought it was a little bit interesting, just that Johannes had the penalty loop at the end. Just, I don't know, just made me wonder, was he thinking about the fact that it was his last shooting in a relay? I don't know. I'm probably putting too much of my own feelings into it.
I don't know, like, that's just kind of the general sense almost that he is taking it almost a little too lighthearted or something. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know what to think about it, but there's just certain moments where you're like, was it at the Worlds that he missed a couple times and he kind of chuckled with his coach and
the individual.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if anyone deserves to be like, hey man, this is my last season, I'm going to enjoy every moment of it, can't blame him. And even when he's like that, he's still, top athlete. But it really surprised me because I was expecting to see like kind of a little pissed off, like, yeah, good for the French. And, second is okay. But it,
yeah, I hear you.
Stood out to me. But I've not always been super positive about QFM, but obviously when you shoot clean, and I think he was the fastest skier in his loop.
He was ready for it.
Yeah. And, with, not going full out at the end there, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was ready. How about the Ukrainians?
Philip Horn had another
was that
good weekend, especially skiing. Philip Horn.
Oh, yeah. He was so close in the pursuit to having a great comeback.
Yeah.
He had hit, I think he was 10 for 10 on the prone shooting, and he had really risen up there, and then standing didn't quite go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, his shooting has not been where he wants it to be, but the skiing is there at least, so.
Pretty impressive.
The Ukrainian third?
Wasn't so pretty impressive by Horn to pull them back after Kuhn's adventurous standing shooting, to say the least. Yeah, Ukraine. First podium in almost exactly 5 years. Kind of neat.
Yeah.
Good for them. Did not see that.
And it's
happening.
funny, right? Because I think we mentioned them before, how they have a really young guy in the team that's been really strong in phases of the season. And then, of course, they have sort of the more experienced guys that have been on the team for a while with Petrushny and I think Duchenko. It's cool. Obviously there's some other reasons why it's cool, but it's also nice to see a non-typical
team. Exactly.
Team on the podium.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out for Sweden this year to have the amazing comeback.
Yeah.
I think they did.
I mean, they still had a
penalty
good
loops
comeback, but
yeah.
What was going on with that, eh?
Well, we talked about Jesper Nelin earlier. You know, he had such a great sprint and then didn't quite happen today.
And it's possible that because Victor Brand already had a penalty loop, that he just went all out
pushing,
all or nothing. Yeah. But I mean, Ponsaloma penalty loop, probably had one of the fastest times, I'm guessing, because that seems to be
just didn't have the magic though. Yeah,
second. He was 0.9 seconds behind Fabien Claude, but 10 seconds ahead of Liegert in his leg.
Odd.
But wasn't it
Fabien
also...
Claude was ahead of Liegert?
No, actually, Fabien Claude had the fastest course time of the third leg in the relay.
How much further ahead of Liegert was he?
11.6. 11.6.
Huh. That's interesting.
And he had only one miss, where Liegert had two. Yeah, and Ponsaloma had, five misses and one penalty loop. So
yeah, well.
But didn't he also on the pursuit have a race? Yeah, 4 misses. But then I think he was the fastest skier.
He also finished pretty high in the pursuit too.
No, he was 4th fastest, but only 4.7 behind JT Bow.
Still moved from 13th to 7th.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Just not his year, eh?
Yeah. Speaking of people who it is their year, Campbell Wright sort of had a quiet week with 2 top 10s, which is just so strange to me, because before this year, we'd talk about, if he had one, a top 10, we'd be like, oh, look, Campbell Wright, a top 10. And this week, 10th to 9th, and just sort of
What I find so funny, like at the World Championships, he gets in second and in the sprint, and then second in pursuit. And now he's 9th in the sprint and 9th in the pursuit. Like
he's very consistent.
Yeah.
No, he likes it. But it's just so funny to me that he just sort of, get another couple
of
top
a
10s.
Suvi Minkinen idea where, you go through the listing, you see Suvi Minkinen at 7th, and you don't even take a second. And the same with Wright, to see him in the top 10, it's like,
of course Suvi's in the top 10. Of course Campbell's in the top 10.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of top 10s, I meant to mention this a long time ago, but Nick Hartweg had 2 more top 10s. He now has 9 for the year, which is actually 1 more than he had when he won the U25 Club a couple of years ago. So very cool. And he's got 5 more races left, so I'd love to see him keep piling them on.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that race, we have not mentioned Giacomel yet, who had another great week.
I know, yeah.
He had 2 second place finishes. He had an excellent leg in the relay. They didn't end up finishing it off real well, but really looked good. And now this is how he's done since the start of Ruhpolding. So he was 21st in the Ruhpolding individual. Then he goes win, third, 5th, 2nd, 6th, 2nd. You just think, I have not done the math on it, but that has to be like the top 3 in points gained in that time. 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Well, and I feel bad for him that he's, he was fighting for the under 25 bib, and now he's 24, and they made it a under 23. But
no, he'd be running away with it. So what is he now?
But now
sixth
it's
in the
Campbell.
World. 6th in the world.
Campbell Wright, who has the blue bib.
Yep, man. So that's just really cool. So it's fun to see that, those 2 guys, Nick Hartweg and Giacomel are coming along, but Giacomel especially. Speaking of, Wright is 16th in the world right now, and Hartweg is, if you want to take a guess as I look it up, he's 15th. So Giacomel 6th, Hartweg 15th, Wright 16th. It's pretty good group of young guys coming up. Throw in there Perot, who's in 4th.
Yeah.
That's
did he pass? He passed Jacquelin?
No, Jacquelin passed him. So Jacquelin's in 3rd.
Oh, okay. They switched spots. Yeah.
There's
okay, that makes
spots.
more sense. Yeah.
Perot, by the way, who was sick this week, and really looked it in the pursuit.
Hmm.
So he looked like he was pretty slow.
Obviously, I also looked at the standings for the pink bib.
Yes, I'm glad.
And the isolated pursuit. And we've definitely seen some changes since the last one I did.
Okay.
We saw Giacomel go from second to first. Has 18-point lead over Simon, who went from third to second. And then Lou has a 55-point lead over Michelin, who went from fifth to third. And then Richard stayed on fourth, and Elvira went from 1 to 5 because, you're not doing well if you're not racing. On the men's side now, Sturla Holmlegreid is leading JT Bow by 27 points. Tarje is now in third, 98 points behind Sturla Holmlegreid. So it's really going to be Sturla and JT Bow fighting it out.
Fighting for the most important of the display globes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Jacquelin went from third to fourth.
What was the gap in the women's?
27.
In the women's?
Oh, in the women's, Lou is leading Simon by 18 points.
Okay.
And 55 to Michelin. Jean-Richard, 75.
Yeah,
and
so
Elvira, 81 points behind. So she
Lou and
technically still win it.
Simon are going to be battling it out. I love it.
Well, but it
I know.
Could be
Lots
any
of
those five.
Yep.
And I think even, what's her name?
Are we going to have some...
Justine Brézaboucher is also still theoretically able to win it because she's within the 90 points. So,
are we going to have bibs to hand out?
No, I send those back to
That's a sad day.
Amazon because I was already not crazy about the color pink, which was more like orange. And then I opened the extra large, which I had selected based on the measurements provided on the Amazon website and thinking of
trying to slip it on of everything.
How much body someone like JT Bow has compared to my body. And according to those descriptions, it would have been, still snug, but like they have the bib, and I unpacked it and I could literally could have gone outside, put on a flag post. It was just absurd.
Yeah.
It seemed like, because they said measure around your waist, but I think the width of the bib was the measurement of the circumference. So I was like, well,
crazy.
I can't, could you imagine like Sturla home and we would actually, if we would have a chance to hand it to them, and then it's like, here's a pink dress for you, So I was.
Don't want to
and
do
I've
that.
been looking, because I don't know if you're familiar with that, but in Holland and Europe, it used to be super popular to have like soccer uniforms, but they're about the size of a large hand, and they're on this mini cloth hanger, and you just hang it in your car or whatever.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I was at some point thinking maybe I could still do something like that, but it's just hard to find. I do have another idea still that I really hope I can do before we take off, but
we'll figure it out. Or maybe we'll get there. We'll go to a store and buy a couple pink shirts and make it happen. We'll just do it real quick with some Sharpies.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Hey.
So, speaking of globes, the IBU will hand out. One will be decided this week with the individual.
Otope Part 2, right?
I'm sorry?
It's Otope Part 2?
Oh, no. I was going to say for the World Cup, one's going to be decided this week. The individual globe is going to be decided. So on the women's side, Jean Monod has a commanding lead over Preuss. She has she's at 180, Preuss is at 125, so that's 55-point lead, and then Ella Halverson's at 109, Elvira 106. So I guess technically still in it. On the men's side,
have 2 so far?
Was that? 2 out of 3, yeah. On the men's side, Andre Stromsheim is still leading. He's at 113 points. And then Surum is at 90, so 23 points back. Logride's also at 90. And then Emilien Claude is at 85 points. still definitely in it. And then Nick Hartweg was at 79. So it's a wide open race.
That'd be a nice ending.
Johannes at 75, Eric Perot 74, QFM 67. So a lot of guys could still technically win it, but I would love to see Nick Hartweg or Emilien Claude grab it in the end.
For sure, yeah.
And then you mentioned Otapa. So there's the IBU Cup over in Otapa. I don't know if anybody paid attention to the races there this week. They were really thrilling. Let me tell you, about some of the finishes we had in the women's sprint. I'm not even going to read names. Yeah, I will. So Jacquelin Guggenau won, and there was only one French woman, on the top there.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking. Eh?
In the women's pursuit, it went France, France, Norway, France. I think they had 4 in the top 6, and then in the mass 60, Kristina Otkowska won, and then you had Botte Bened. So anyway, you had France, 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 Austria, Sweden, Germany, Germany. Really what I was talking about was the men's side, though, because it was in every single race, Norway, 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 Norway. There was a lot of Norways. And your eyes just kind of glazed over when you're looking at it. And it's hard. We talk about this a lot, but the depth of the Norwegian men and the French women is just kind of overwhelming, and I don't even know what to do with it anymore. As you look at it, and you're like,
so I'm going to ask you, based on the current standings for the IBU Cups, which of the two is more dominant, French women or Norwegian men?
Probably Norwegian men.
Yeah, they have no, actually it's the French.
Oh, is it really?
French women have top 6.
Man,
Norwegian men only have top 5.
Oh well, okay.
And I looked at one of the worst performing Norwegians, Jürgen Sæther. Sæther, 25 years old. So I would think his career making it to the World Cup is pretty much shot.
His days are numbered. Yeah.
So he got 25th, and I can't read that, but a decent result in Otapa. Then he had I read that wrong. He's got 14th, 11th, and 32nd in this weekend. Then before Brezno, 6th and 12th, and then in Obertiliac he had 4th and 4th.
Oh well, he's terrible.
And he has 5 countrymen ahead of him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Of which 2 were
on the World Cup for most of the year.
World Cup, and one of them just got really sick after winning his first race on the World Cup. And 2 guys who are like Frey is what?
21, 22 years old. Super young.
And then Bowden is a little bit older, I think. Or is
Bowden's,
he even
I think,
younger?
25. Yeah, but they're still quite young. Bakken is 26. So the top 5 for the Mass 60, it was Christensen, Bowden, Frey, Dalish Gevdal, Bakken. It's just...
Well, it was all... And then the sprinter was Frey, Christensen, Dahle, Bowden, and then Bakken in 6th.
These guys just traded spots around.
Bowden, Chris, Janssen, Dahle, Frey, Bakken. Yeah.
So next year,
I would actually, that makes me think, I would like to interview Jürgen Sæther.
And to see how he's...
how does it, you could be... For any other nation, you could probably make the team without too much competition. Maybe not every country, but...
Yeah. Here's a question for you. So Norway is going to get to... So Isaac Frey is going to get to come up because he's going to win. He's going to win. They get to select one more man from the IBU Cup to come up for Oslo. Who should they pick? Christensen, Dahle, Bakken, or Bowden?
I would pick Bowden. I would go with the younger.
Yeah.
To get that experience.
Yeah. Do you remember when he came up last year? So Frey, he's going to win the
He's
IBU
already
Cup,
going?
So he automatically,
gets get an extra spot for him?
Yep. Yeah. And then the next question I was going to ask is, with both Bow brothers leaving next year, so let's assume that Lagrad is going to be secure in holding his spot. So then how do you fill out the rest of that roster?
I don't know how secure Stromsheim is.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that the Norwegian qualification races are going to be their
bananas
first focus of the season. And then after, whoever makes the team is probably going to focus on the Olympics. And if you're not in that team, you're going to try everything again week to week to make it to the World. So, if any of the guys in the World Cup make a bad weekend, you're just going to try to make it easy for the coaches to say, well, we should give this other guy a chance because he's doing so well. But it's just, you look at this list, Boten, Christensen, Dala, Frey, Bakken, it could be the result of a race on the World Cup.
That could
especially
be a World
next
Cup
year
relay
when the Bow brothers are not there.
Yeah. I know. And then you think they have the two guys Kasper Kalkenberg, who did the best at Junior Worlds, is going to be in Oslo as well because of that. They had Havard Tosterud and Sivert Gerhardsen, who also collected medals at. It's just silly.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this so many times, but I almost wish that the IBU would encourage people to look at their heritage, because it's a shame for those guys to be so good and not to be able to compete at the World Cup. And at the same time, I think there's so many countries who could really benefit. Like, look at the effect that Campbell Wright is having on the U.S. team.
Yeah. Or if you look at the...
Right? If you're the one person that was on the team and now is not on the team because Campbell Wright is better, that really sucks, of course. But, just for the team overall, they've had some amazing results.
Yes.
They're competitive longer in the relays.
Mm-hmm.
They're celebrating world championship medals.
They made there's an article from the NBC Sports Network that was written about Campbell Wright. That just doesn't happen about biathlon in this country.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they actually
the first paragraph is explaining that no, it's not running and biking and swimming.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about sport. Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. So it changes the game to have somebody like Campbell Wright. And you look at I think,
and on top of that, he's such a cool guy too.
Oh my gosh!
If you want to have I don't know what the term is for that, but somebody being the body for a sport in a country,
he's the face of the sport. He's got the chance to do that.
Because I think the women did pretty well. The American women,
they did. They had a really good start. Chloe Levins and Deidre Irwin in the relay. Deidre Irwin actually was the fastest woman, I think, on the first leg. But
didn't they also have a pretty good race in the individual races?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Irwin was 23rd.
Yeah. Chloe Levins has really come along. She was on the World Cup last year. She didn't qualify for the first trimester, and she's worked her tail off to get back up there. And so that's a really cool story too. I would love to chat with her at some point.
Wow, it was a long list of notes that I had.
I know. I've got this huge note here, and I think we've hit a lot of it. But I'm long story short, I'm just happy biathlon's back. I would much rather be, talking about this than whatever happened in the Latvian team room. So
or
this is a lot more fun.
How is there a podcast tariff now that you're
no tariffs, no podcast tariffs? No, not yet. Hey, I'm the one that's editing it, so technically it's coming out, from here. So at least we don't have to worry about the tariff on our end. Maybe you guys, but yeah. So
I think I asked you last week: is Anna Gandler still planning on coming to Oslo, or is she done for the season?
I don't know. It was a little bit vague. She is. That's sad. She looked. I shouldn't say she looked, because it was just a note on her Instagram feed, but she just sounded pretty beat up by the season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully she can get joy out of Emilien Claude doing quite well.
And this is an hour and a half into the podcast, but we had more instances this week of just really sad individuals writing really mean notes to biathletes. Lujan Minot shared a couple after the pursuit, and in her Instagram message, she seemed to be lighthearted about it, which I hope that she really is. But it's just people are. I mean, to go after somebody and call them a loser or whatever after that, I just
for getting in fourth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really irritates me. I just be better, people, you know. And I think everybody listening to this is great. I'm sure. And I mean that sincerely. It just makes me sad.
It's just hard to relate to, right?
Yeah. Just
why somebody would do that.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and post this. This will be up Monday afternoon for those of you in Europe. And then we are going to record again another episode about junior and youth worlds. That should be up in the next couple days as well. So it's a big week from us. Next week is Pokljuka, and we will record immediately after that because then we have to pack because we're going to be getting on an airplane and going to Oslo. And that is just still the craziest thing in the world.
Still crazy. I still, like, when I was talking about Oslo earlier and you're like, I'm going to give JGBO a hug, I just started smiling because it sounds so weird.
But it's real. It could happen. I could do it and then get kicked out.
I know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It'd all be worth it.
Although I still have to get my permission from the media accreditation team.
Are you serious?
Did you not get any?
No, they sent me an email.
Did you get an email?
Yeah, they should send you an email. Yeah, I would check back in with them.
I think the previous 2 times I had the same thing where I just for some reason I didn't get a
We'll just show up and make sure they get your badge printed.
Yeah. I'll just bring the one from last year.
You should do that. See what happens. Yeah. Oslo.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're getting out of here.
Yep. Thanks for listening, guys.
Absolutely. Take care.
Have a good one. Yep. Bye.
Bye.